You were a deputy with the Sheriff's Department in July of 1964,
Yes, I was.
and you were the arresting deputy on the occasion of Dr. Martin Luther King's arrest.
Yes, he was arrested at the plaza at the old slave market for unlawful assembly. It was about dusk or 5:30 or 6 o'clock at the time.
Late afternoon.
Late afternoon, yes.
Was it was the plaza crowded at that time?
Yes,
was there
it was.
activity going on?
It was very active, large crowds,
Yeah.
unruly.
And there was some violence at that
Yes,
time?
there was violence.
You arrested Dr. King. Were others arrested at the same time?
There were several others arrested by other deputies
Mm-hmm.
at the same time.
I see, okay. Now, you transported Dr. King to the former county jail, which is now the annex of the
Yes.
Sheriff's Department.
Yes, I probably know.
There is a picture of Dr. King in the back seat of a cruiser with a police dog. Was that the cruiser?
Yes, that was my cruiser, my police dog, Rex.
Your police dog Rex?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did Rex and Dr. King get along pretty well?
Very well.
They
I mean,
Okay.
there was no fearsome part of there or anything.
Yeah. Rex was well trained.
He was well trained, yes. He sat out there peaceful beside of him.
Okay. Did you and Dr. King have any conversation during the transport or at the jail?
Yes, we had conversations. I don't remember the exact words or anything, but he was very gentlemanly coming to the jail and all, and posed no problem whatever.
Right. You say others were arrested about the same time. What was the scene at the jail?
It was very crowded, trying to book them, and
Yeah. And the fingerprint card that you used to fingerprint Dr. King?
yes, I did.
That was you said you ran out of.
We ran out of fingerprint cards,
Uh-huh.
and had to call them. Putnam County deputy brought us some of their cards that we could use, and met one of our cars at the county line, and they brought them over to use.
Okay, so the fingerprint card that you had would be a Putnam Sheriff's Department card.
Yes, sir. Yes, it would.
Did you cross out Putnam and put in St. John's?
No, I believe it had Putnam printed on it, but I don't remember if I crossed it out or not.
Yeah. Okay. Was Dr. King put in an individual cell?
I don't remember if he was or not.
So in the booking procedure, you do you fill out the paperwork and the fingerprint card,
Yes, sir.
and then turn
Turn them over to the jailer.
to the jailer who takes it from there.
Yes, sir.
I see. What did you do after you completed that arrest procedure? Were you sent back to the plaza, or?
Yes, sir. Went back down to the class. We continued to try to control the crowd there. They were getting very unruly. But
Had this the demonstrations and so on been going on for a while?
Yes.
For a number of days?
It was to the point that we're almost daily marches and demonstrations.
Yeah. Did this, of course, Dr. King was internationally known at the time.
Yes.
Did you have the press asking you questions or following you and Dr. King in the arrest?
They made some pictures as I was putting them in the car, but I don't remember them following me out here or anything.
Right.
Oh, they were press all over town
Yeah.
down there making pictures.
And
Following
they were busy watching the demonstrations and didn't think about this
Yes,
side
sir.
of it. Yeah. Give us a description of the scene and the arrest of Dr. King.
It was very crowded and unruly at the time. They were speaking, I believe it was Abernathy. They were speaking at the slave market. And the crowd just kept gathering in, and Dr. King came up there and was going in. And at that time, we started trying to disperse the crowd. And he went up on there and came back down, and he was going back up again when we made the arrest for not disorderly conduct, but unlawful assembly to break up the crowd. No. He came down very peacefully, actually walked on through the car as though he had planned it, more or less, and sat down in the car, and then I left the crowd then, came on to the jail and booked him. There was a crowd out here demonstrating in front of the jail for some that was already in jail. I believe Ms. Peabody, I believe she was in here then, I'm not sure. But at that time, I booked him and got him fingerprinted, and I went back down to help control the crowd and disperse it. And they finally left there and they marched back downtown singing "We Shall Overcome." And after that, they dispersed from the parade and went on home for the night.
This is all late afternoon.
Yes, sir. It was late afternoon and into the night.
Right. There is a famous picture of Dr. King in the police cruiser with a police dog. Was that your cruiser?
Yes, sir. That was my cruiser.
And your dog.
And I believe I loaned the picture to Sheriff Perry, and I don't remember. I was never able to get it back.
We'll have to get after him for that.
Yes, sir.
But this was your police dog?
Yes, sir, my police dog.
Rex?
Rex, yes, sir.
How old was he?
He was a young dog, and he was well trained.
Yeah. So there wasn't any incident with Dr. King?
No, sir, there was no incident whatever with Dr. King and the dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Demonstrations in and around the plaza had been going on for some time. You were
yes,
a part of
every night.
Control force
yes,
out for that. Okay.
Well, all the deputies were out.
How many would you say in deputies at that time?
There were 5 of us regular deputies, was all they had, and then auxiliaries and special deputies that had.
Brought in.
Yes, it was brought in. And all the highway patrolmen and game wardens and all that, they were in here helping control.
Yeah. Are you aware of another arrest of Dr. King during that period? I didn't see it, I was not there, but I heard that he was arrested at, I don't remember the name of the motel now. Monson, yes, sir. Yeah. And you recall if that was before or after the arrest you made?
I believe that was before.
Okay. Do you recall how many days Dr. King was in town before the arrest, before your arrest?
I think probably 2 weeks off and on. He'd be in town, and he would leave and come back.
Yeah. Okay. So this was toward the end of his visits here.
Yes, and it was getting close to the end of it.
Yeah. Okay. And I think the fingerprint card incident is very interesting with the number of arrests that you ran out of fingerprint cards.
Yes, sir.
And got them from
Putnam County.
From Putnam County. Okay.
But the rumor was out at that time that we should do more to protect Martin Luther King from from the blacks. They was saying he was worth more as a martyr than as a leader at that time, and that was one of our main objects.
So protect him.
Was to help protect him from them. But I mean, there was never no incident that I know of that any of them actually tried to harm him.
Did there was a general atmosphere as the demonstrations got underway, and then Dr. King and other members of the SCLC, Abernathy and so on, came down. Did the nature of the demonstrations change when they arrived?
They would get more brutal. I mean, demonstrations were more combative, I would say, than what they were when he had, as if they wanted to make a show to him of what they were doing.
Now, who were instigators in the greater violence, or were it the demonstrators or the people opposed to the demonstrations?
I would say it was mostly 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just everybody, and it turned a lot of the local people against one another. It was just so tense. Everybody was mad at everybody else, it seemed like.
And King was preaching and came here to emphasize peaceful demonstrations.
Yes.
So was it interesting to you that the demonstrations appeared to become more violent?
That's what it seemed to me.
Yeah.
That it was, like I said, it seemed more as though they were trying to prove something to him himself, that they were, what they were doing.
Yeah. It was like you say, you were among the deputies, and we had black demonstrators and racists, and a good number of them came in from outside, I understand. What was the...
Well, there was almost as many whites came in with them to demonstrate as there were the blacks. And the blacks here, they resented outsiders coming in. It just caused a lot of them trouble and put them on the spot.
Stirred up.
Just stirred up it all, racist all. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
But it was just absolute chaos for, I'd say, a month or 6 weeks. Not that long.
Yeah. And it kept intensifying over time.
Yes, it just kept intensifying and growing and growing.
Yeah. And Dr. King's coming in, rather than calming it at the time, intensified it?
Yeah, yes, it would intensify. It's just like throwing fuel on fire. And he would be here.
Right.
But when he would come, he would bring Abernathy and some of the other, big leaders in with him. And they all just not agitated, I wouldn't say agitated, just built it up and kept it stirred up more, inflamed it.
Yeah. The result of his business, many credit with securing final passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Did you realize at the time of the arrest the significant role that you would have in history?
No, I would have never dreamed that or even thought it at that time or anything. It was just, I say there's just so much confusion and everything then that it was just a day's work. But I mean, it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
But I never dreamed it would be significant as it is, as it turned out.
Right.
That would, right then, would more or less be the turning point of the civil rights movement.
The whole era, are you a lifelong resident of St. Johns County?
Almost.
Okay.
It's almost lifelong.
Knowing St. Augustine as you would have over the years, was this whole era unusual?
Very unusual. The before that started, there was no trouble with the blacks and the whites here then. I mean, all of them. It was very peaceful.
Yeah.
And that's what it was so you couldn't understand. The outsiders bringing in, it wasn't the blacks here wanted it so much. It was I don't know how to explain it, but they just picked St. Augustine as the oldest city for the significance of it some way. But it wasn't the local people here that did it.
You think it would have been blacks from the outside, from the Birminghams and Selmas and other areas that picked the target and went after it.
They just picked St. Augustine as being the oldest city for the significance of that.
Right.
But there was no problem before they came and started.
Yeah. And the white population here was kind of in the same boat, that they were fine, but outsiders came.
Yes. Yeah. But what it did, it just turned so many of the locals against one another.
Yeah.
That was the bad thing about it. That was what really hurt St. Augustine.
Right.